Hi, my name's Dee and welcome to Sunchild Tarot and welcome to some general readings for the total lunar eclipse, supermoon, blood moon, flower moon for 26th, 27th of May, depending on where you are in the world. Now it's for the sign that is in the title of the video. It's a bulk introduction as ever. There'll be a timestamp that I'll put down below because I would suggest watch your sun, your moon, and your rising. And if you only get to watch one of them, watch your rising. Now, as ever, there's a link in the description down below for a birth chart, so you can find out your rising sign if you don't know it. And as general readings and general YouTube readings, standard advice applies. You know, if it don't fit, don't try and make it fit. Don't let me make decisions for you. It's not so much, well, I suppose this one is a take what resonates, because normally I would say for my more specific readings, ask a question. But this time I'm using basically oracle cards, and it's having a look at what energies I think this lunar eclipse, or I feel, or I intuit, I suppose would be a better way of saying it, or what the cards think anyway, that are bringing to us to experience throughout the effect of this lunar eclipse. Now, sometimes that can be up to 3 months. I've got stuck in my head from somewhere. I think 3 months for a lunar and 6 months for a solar. However, looking at the symbolism and looking at the astrology of it, it looks like it's definitely a build up and a preparation of the solar eclipse when that arrives in 2 weeks, another 2 weeks' time. So I will be doing a show with astrologer David Fisher, looking at the astrology of this lunar eclipse, and also it's a full moon. So I will still be doing my full moon gods at play readings as well, where I will be looking also at the angels and demons and that sort of the symbolisms and the degree symbols of the lunar eclipse itself. Here, since it is a south node eclipse, that is also talking about letting things go, releasing, dealing with the past, all of that sort of stuff. So I thought I would have a look at the angel regarding the south node itself, which in this case is Menadel. But I also want to point out that this is under the influence of Neptune, 22 degrees Pisces. So under modern rulerships, it's happy, it's at home, it's at 22 degrees, it's a master number, giving it extra whammy. And have a look at Soul Garden Namaste TV, Serious Joy, sorry, on YouTube for more about step 22, as Kushwateki calls it. But this is conjunct Pallas, the asteroid Pallas, which a few astrologers have made something of. There's a great video. Well, there was a great note, but I'm sure there was a video about it. If I may suddenly think I'm imagining it, but about Neptune conjunct Pallas from Anastasia Cosmic Astrologer. But the one thing that I noticed that nobody else is talking about is that it is also conjunct the asteroid Orpheus. So Neptune conjunct Pallas is extra psychic whammy, extra psychic awareness, extra psychic atmosphere, psychically charged. It's also Pallas can be looking at the wise way to weaponize things. So I think we have to keep a very close eye on the media and see what symbols and metaphors and dreams and wishy-washy woolly ideas that they are pushing forward more and more and more in order to sway public opinion one way or another. Take that as you will. I'm not an anti-vaxxer or anything like that, so I'm not listening to that sort of aspect of it. But when we look at the patent argument about the COVID vaccine, or we look at the various other economic arguments that abound on the planet, I wouldn't be surprised if something comes up. But with this also being conjunct Orpheus, now what do we know about Orpheus? He was a musician. and he descended into the underworld to bring back to life his lover Eurydice, who had been killed by a snake bite, and he braved all sorts of challenges and unfortunately failed on the last 5 yards. But there's this image of a descent into the underworld for heroic reasons. Now, a lot of the astrologers are saying that this is a letting go of past baggage. And to be honest, some of the degree symbols back this up. But with Neptune and Pallas together, we are able to dive into our own personal underworlds, Orpheus, and note those ideas and beliefs that have been used against us, even if it is us using them against us. You know, standard counseling sort of philosophy of it's not so much what other people have told you, it's what you learned as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old that you have to deal with. And let's face it, a 4, 5 or 6-year-old doesn't always get things right. So it looks like it's a perfect opportunity to dive into all those sorts of issues. Now, the angel, as I said, for this is Menadel. Now, as a degree angel, Menadel represents fear or fearlessness, and inner and outer work. So those, if we descend into our own underworlds, get the teeth in, then that is inner work that can have an effect on our lives, on the outer work, quite dramatically, I would say, under this Neptune Pallas Orpheus conjunction, all being ruled by Menadel. Now, Menadel is about liberation. So again, there's that letting go. Freedom and work. Not freedom from work, but finding that work that is your great work, whatever your great work may be. It's associated with Mars. So there is all this diving into the underworld. It's not just to dive into the underworld and stay there and wallow in, oh, look, I've got this issue, and oh, look, I've got that. It's a dive in, do what you need to, get out again. Now, Menadel's also a guardian of some people born under the sign of Virgo. I've not got the degrees, but I've got the dates, 18th to the 23rd of September, traditionally. So I don't know if you have your birthday in that period, you may get a bit of extra whammy from this transit, purely from that angelic resonance. Now, the interesting thing is the Chandra degree, Chandra symbol or inside degree we have is icicles melting. And the description is soul timing, slow and formative, waiting for fullness and ripeness, outliving old stuck patterns by slowly wearing them out. Something that I think we are in the process of, certainly since last year and all the crazy astrology that we've been having since late 2019. Deep process, you experience lessons in humility and simplicity. An extravagant streak which relents only after relentless pressure. Now, can you see in this symbol, there's also that tension between the Saturn-Uranus square going on. The conflict and the attempting to balance the old with the new. In fact, it says, the next thing it says here is cross purposes. You have an attachment to personal inclination of the most stubborn kind, and yet a desperate drive to get beyond the shadow. Interior dialogue and dispute. I don't think this is going to necessarily be externally a dramatic full moon. With it, the normal full moon, if you worked in all sorts of jobs, you know full moon is always a crazy night. I think the eclipse aspect would hopefully calm that down a bit. Fingers crossed. But I think internally, it promises to be a doozy. The slow burning way and allowing pride to surrender without being made wrong. Elaborate maneuvers towards significant breakthrough, which backs up everything that I was saying. Now, the Sabian symbol. Now, here's a fascinating one. Let me scroll down to it to make sure I get it right. Where have you gone? Now, it's a flag turns into an eagle. The eagle into a chanticleer saluting the dawn. Now, I see that Saturn Uranus old versus new in that symbol as well. The eagle, although it's gone down, it was a symbol of Rome, it's a symbol of America. It's not the only country that has the eagle as one of its symbols. And it comes historically, if you like your ancient alien stuff, it comes from Babylonian times, and it was the symbol of Enlil. Where, if you like your ancient aliens, you'll remember that Enlil is the one that tried to bump us all off because we were thinking too much and getting too bright. And it was his brother Enki who managed to save more than a few of us. Enki, if you're unfamiliar with Sumerian myths, you can look at Enki in a way as being a cross between Poseidon and Prometheus, because Enki was the one who gave mankind gifts and theoretically created us in the first place, and so therefore we're his pets, and he wants us to prosper, and ignore all the weird power dynamics of that statement. So in the background of this strange allegory, we recognise the deep-seated belief that the American nation and its basic democratic institutions were constituted to be the cradle for a new step in human evolution. How ironic that Dame Rudyard would look at it that way. And under modern context, absolutely. Under your ancient alien context, gets a bit weirder, doesn't it? But then again, so if you're into your conspiracy theories, this is a great one. Because the keynote of this symbol is the spiritualization and promotion of great symbols of a new age by minds sensitive to its precursory manifestations. How apropos right now, when you have everyone talking about the new age of Aquarius, that I still say we're not in it for a few hundred years yet, but we have that Aquarian energy, we have that air energy from the new 200-year, 800-year Jupiter-Saturn Great Conjunction cycle that has now entered the element of air. So even to a point, and I suppose this comes from my more scientific past, I'm a stickler for going, we are not yet in the age of Aquarius, but it really doesn't harm to start believing that we are, because of the good sides of it, because our beliefs and our actions defined by those beliefs will hopefully bring around that Aquarian paradise that everyone talks of, rather than maybe a totalitarian state, which is the shadow side of Aquarius. But, let's not talk about that one. So, carrying on with Dame Rudyard's interpretation, the flag is the abstract symbol of the nation. It becomes an eagle, another US symbol, when the concept is made alive by bold and transparent action. I suppose that relates to what I was just saying about the whole Age of Aquarius idea. The eagle symbolizes spiritual will and the power to rise from the highest possible altitude to the highest possible altitude of consciousness and purpose. Flying at such an altitude, the eagle is the first living creature to perceive the rising sun. Now, that he writes more about this, but I don't want this introduction to be too long. But I have not yet looked at the chart for the solar eclipse, and let's face it, I rely on David for the more technical understandings of all that anyway. But it will be interesting to see what I dig up about Amael for the full moon gods at play readings. Other than that, you can ask a question before this reading. Here's your opportunity now if you want to. I'm not going to guarantee you'll get an answer because it's not necessarily that sort of reading. But I'll bring the cards up in a second. So if you want to, pause, ask your question, concentrate on it for a few minutes and start the video again. In the meantime, I'll bring up the cards. Okay, Pisces. Well, this eclipse is happening in your 10th house. This is your achievements, your status in the outside world. Some people will say career. Yeah, there's a difference between career and achievements, I would say. Now, firstly, while we're talking about achievements, the first thing that you are to do is confess your faults. We have Zadkiel, the angel of mercy here. That sounds rough, I know, but stick with me. Um, it's Zadkiel is asking you to, Zadkiel will see all of your faults. He is asking you to reveal them to those who have the power to forgive you for whatever it is that you feel that you have done. And since we also have that with Mammon here, which is saying beware avarice, but also be aware that if you are in the pursuit of something, it does not blind you to the blessings that are already around you. With that confess your faults way of looking at things, I think you may find that some of the things that you are confessing and holding against yourself, so I'm not talking about other people holding things against you, I'm talking about you holding things against you, that forgiveness is not even so much that it's already there, it's that it was never an issue in the first place, or that someone, that you may say, I am so sorry that I did such and such. And it's like, well, thank God you finally realised that, or that you finally said it. Can we move on now? Because we have this Be Reborn Daily card. Let go of the past and breathe in your new incarnation is what it says. And there does feel like there's this beautiful cleansingness about this lunar eclipse for you, which is hammered home by the fact, look at this. Okay, you're not going to see it from there, are you? Omael, the angel who is ruling the moon, the degree of the moon, sorry, on the eclipse. The angel who is ruling this lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse, total supermoon, blood moon lunar eclipse. So, and you are the only one of the Zodiac that have had this one. We've had Mehabel come out for a couple of people. Well, no, for one people, which is that south node that I was talking about at the start. But here you have Omael representing fertility and multiplicity. There is healing to be gained here, and by you confessing your sins, these perceived sins, let's put it that way, you are providing healing for yourself and for others. This Grove card from the Wisdom of the House of Night talks all about providing healing for yourself and for others. Now, I've got a funny feeling that you are aiming to provide healing for others and you actually end up providing healing for yourself in the process, and that's okay. The other thing is the first card is very much the presence of Jupiter in your sign. And let's not forget, as I spoke about at the beginning, Neptune, conjunct Pallas, conjunct Orpheus. It is card number 25 of the Hero's Journey Dream Oracle. Whale of a time. Your charge is to enlarge. Now there is that sense of Jupiter, of expansion in your sign, and that's how whatever you are wanting to give out into the world, you are looking for the opportunities, or you will be made aware of the opportunities and you need to take them, to do more of it, give more of it. And this is something that is a good thing. It's not just, I don't want you to hear those words and just think, oh God, no more work. No, because there is a joy with this. With the Jupiter's the greater benefic, there is a joy with having Jupiter behind you, giving you that expansion. Spirit is working with you here. We have awakened spirit desire to change, so that all at once implies information coming in from spirit, and a realization within yourself of something that you are wanting to change. We've had the Be Reborn daily, and that is hammered home. You might have noticed the Wisdom of the Hidden Realms Oracle 4 popped out as I was only going to take those two, and those two were looking at, and it's like, no, they've got to go in. So the Hawk Prince, spirit communication, paying attention, information coming in, as we see on this awakened spirit card by the big beam. That's not coming out of that person, that's going into the person, or at least that's how it feels this time. Because you are being called to a higher charge. We have St. Martha here, sister of Lazarus, also known for fighting a dragon in medieval Europe, I believe. She was a bit of a workaholic, but her bailiwick was creating a clean and sacred space for Jesus to work in. And it was all about her disciplining herself and giving service. But that service enabled her to have the magical strength to fight a dragon later on in the legends, So, that's a positive thing. And this is echoed again by the High Lord of Gratitude and Service, talking about selflessness, humility, and conscious action. And that conscious action seems to start from the point of, and I'm going to be so cheeky and call this reading It's Time to Confess Your Sins, and I hope you forgive me for that, but I can't resist that headline. It starts with that, you going, yeah, I was wrong there, or I feel that I did wrong there. And I've got a suspicion that at least half of the answers you'll get, yeah, but if you hadn't have done that, this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't happen, so I'm actually grateful that you did do it. Even if you was out of order at the time. So what? It's water under the bridge. So it's more a case about forgiving you forgiving you, than other people forgiving you. But you ain't going to forgive you unless you make that effort and open yourself up to it. You ain't going to initiate that resurrection. You ain't going to bring that phoenix fire into your life, and allow the changes that unfold from that. I'm also drawn with the web weaver, synchronicity, divine intelligence, I can't see, divine intelligence, cause and effect. Now, all of this realization, this activation with spirit, this going to fight dragons in medieval Europe, it all seems part of a plan. It feels like, and that figures, I suppose, a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter's now in our sign. But I'm getting the image of like a lighting board for a stage. And back at my school, it was it was an antiquated lighting board that you had to be very, very careful that you didn't get an electric shock from, because of some of the connections. But I've got the image of like a switch being flicked on that to go, right, okay, Pisces, go. Or with the readings that I've done so far, if you've got any Aquarius in your chart, go and look at the Aquarius reading. Because what I'm really feeling is it was like, Aquarius, go. Pisces, go. There's working their way through. And I can't remember what half the other readings were. So that might be true for other signs as well. Look at the titles, but be aware I can be a bit tongue-in-cheek on how I name them. But this is part of a plan. So if you've been frustrated up to this point in not being able to achieve something, do not worry about it. There is a new dream to progress forward with, or a new dream that's being offered to you. And quite possibly with that Knight of Cups, there is... I forgot that there's this card that sneaked in that's got, all it is an example of the artist's art. But we've got the Death card with it. Now this... because this is the Morgan Greer, I think. But there's a very Ten of Pentacles vibe with this card, which is probably why I've left it in. But it's with that death card on the awakened spirit and the St. Martha, there is that big change. There is that sense of switching on. You do the groundwork for the switching on, but you ain't going to believe what happens once that switch has been thrown, activated. Because I just don't want to say once that switch has been switched. You know, there is a sense of coming into your power, your skill, your whatever. And with the Aquarius reading, it felt also incredibly mystical, spiritual, energetic. Here, I don't want to say that it isn't mystical, spiritual, energetic, hocus pocus, what have you, but there feels also like there's a real world effect. So it's not just that, oh, all of a sudden you are in contact with these other dimensional entities. It's all of a sudden you are creating actions that affect change that are inspired by these other dimensional entities. You know, there's for good or for ill, you know, but I think for good. That's how I'm feeling with this. Yes, and have a look at your guidance as it's coming in. You are expected as a point of service to act on the intuitions that come in. Knight of Wands here, but with the rebirth and the spirit communication of the Hawk Prince, you have the Ace of Cups. So with Knight of Cups, Ace of Cups, could be new love coming in, but that's irrelevant. That's a side story. That's just, yeah, it's more you're going out to be you on steroids this time. But it starts with you, with you stop making excuses and actually do the whole confess your sins. I mean, it might not be that you're confessing them to somebody else. It may be that you are just confessing them to yourself. That's fine. But if there is somebody to say sorry to, get on with it. Let's have a look. I want to go with this one. Yes, the energies, the material energies, the elements are in support of you doing that healing. And that healing brings hidden benefits. Like I say, once that switch has been thrown, that's the word I'm looking for. Once that switch has been thrown, you will be surprised on the changes that it will bring for you. You will be shattering numerous structures that you have held around yourself, but it's a shattering that, Tower reversed, it's a shattering in a way that doesn't matter. And the reason that it doesn't matter is it's not a real tower that's falling. It's a tower that, by the act of you shattering it, by the act of you destroying it, as it falls, it fades from existence because it never existed in the first place. It was all a mental construct. That's what I'm getting from that. So let's have a look what Mammon has got to say and the angels. Right. So as I say, we've got Amael with fertility and multiplicity. Your efforts that you put in now, and yet, as we know, with St. Martha and the High Lord of Gratitude and Service and this Knight of Wands, you are called to put the work in now. Great, because I think you'll really enjoy it as well. Maybe not the start, but definitely once it gets going. And we have the Three of Wands with the two angels here. We have Amael with fertility and multiplicity, ruling the moon, as I said, in this eclipse, but also Daniel with eloquence. Now that, for me, is really interesting about your words here have power. And definitely, if you are confessing your sins, or, you are making apologies or you are making statements to others and getting rid of the nonsense, getting rid of the BS, you will have the magic words to do it because you are being supported by spirit and you are turning into the new you that you knew needs to be there. I say that there's a new you coming out of this. It's not one that you haven't already designed and visualized and been aware of, but it's, you are Jean Grey, and yes, this is yet another resurrection. And no doubt there have been deaths and resurrections before, and there will be deaths and resurrections again. But here's one happening now, and you are being called into play. Like I say, Aquarius, go. Pisces, go. But it all starts with that pretty much taking inventory of and confessing your sins. Yeah, there's not much more I can say for that, Pisces. That is a beautiful reading. I have got no idea what's on the other side of it. But then who needs to know? All we need to know out of this is the promise of something great on the other side of it. And that's what we've got. Because the cards tell us enough and no more. Believe me, no more. But they tell us enough to get us where we're planning on going. Okay, so if this means anything to you already, Pisces, comment down below. Obviously, I'll be very grateful if you was to give the video a like and to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for all of you who have subscribed already. It really does help. I'm still chasing after that magic 1000, so all help is appreciated. Everybody's welcome. And there will be full moon gods at play readings, which I've been saying on the other videos. By their very nature, the full moon readings are dramatic. But after Aquarius and this Pisces reading, they're going to have to go some to beat this. All right, cheers.